Hey everybody, this is Skybase talking. So it's been a while since my last video upload, and let me just give you a quick explanation for what happened. Basically, I was doing this job that was just taking up a lot of my disk space, and it was just unrealistic for me to record anything at that point. So anyway, I unfortunately wasn't able to do anything at that point. I just made some pictures though. I just continued to make pictures. It was just, I couldn't record any of it. But we're back to our regular schedule since my job's done at this point, and I cleared out my drive. Okay, so here's what's happening in this SideTrip painting. I had this idea for creating this extremely large indoor space with a lot of light flooding through it. I had no idea what exactly I wanted to have this environment to be about, but in the back of my head I was screaming the word archive, archive, archive. And I really wanted to have this sort of building that was about memories. It was about this thing where you had this giant facility just to copy the entire universe. The known universe, that is. So in one sense, it's almost like having a server backup of the universe right here in this facility. Now, you can't really see it from the architecture itself, but it does have this sort of... It kind of feels a little bit religious, I guess. Like there's some sort of like thing going on. Now, I'm not necessarily going towards the religious direction of it at all. It's just kind of like a thing that I had in mind. I was like inspired by Gothic architecture, but at the same time I was also inspired by modern architecture, where if you ever go to any of these big office buildings with huge, lobbies, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. It's these large spaces that appear to mean nothing, but at the same time, it's supposed to kind of give you this feeling of intimidation. Like it's supposed to give you this sort of grandness that you're so small amongst this large space. And that's part of the idea and psychology behind it. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that this is the entire truth about it. It's just part of it's just design, So this is another thing that I was thinking about. Now, as I was modeling this, I quickly realized that I was not really like... it seems like a lot of my things were getting a little bit minimal, so I had this idea for trying to make it look a little bit more unique by just continuously extruding this cube that I first of all created. Now, for those of you who are looking at it going like, this guy doesn't know how to model, that's exactly right. I really don't know what I'm doing. I generally don't like modeling. I'm not a modeler. I'm more of a lighting and texturing person, and also render, that is. Modeling has never been my responsibility, so once I start modeling anything, it just starts becoming this thing where I just continuously extrude. But part of that is just kind of like, I thought it would be interesting to see what would happen if I just let myself do that. So here I am right now, just looking through this camera, using Moto's progressive renderer, just to quickly add some details here and there. So you can see how once I just began to realize that these walls were just boring me out, I decided to quickly add these details in. And the reflections are helping a little bit, but the render times are pretty significant on these renders, so I was wondering how to reduce the render times, but at the same time keep the sort of quality of it. You can see how I'm just adding these quick supports. It really adds a little bit of detail, even if it's simple stuff. Like, these are just cubes that I'm really using here. And I'm just kind of opening up more space here and there, just to flood it with light. Now I'm trying to frame it here and just wondering how I'm going to frame this scene. I played with volumetric lighting a little bit in this entire area, and kind of realized that it was just going to take a lot of render time, and I might as well add it in later on. Here I'm adding ornaments, very simple stuff, just to give the walls a little bit more bumpiness. Just something extra, really. In the end, a lot of the paintings will cover that up, and it will kind of make it look more like a texture, which is what the technique is kind of involving in. So I hit render just to see how long it would take, and it was taking a fair amount of time, so I optimized the model a little bit. I made the materials a little bit less intense, and also changed some of the colors, and reduced the render size overall. And this allowed me for a fairly fast render. But at this point, the clock was ticking and the 3 hours was almost up that I had to paint this. So I began to use several techniques, very simple stuff. I just, you know, I sometimes feel like I should be a perfectionist at this point, but like I just couldn't really bring myself. But the render was pretty much done, so this process is more like a stylization. I wanted to bring the human element into it, and that's basically me on a Cintiq just brushing stuff away. Here I'm adding the characters. This is Azure, the human being. Just like really quick drawing here, based on a reference that I've always been drawing. These basic colors based on the image, and some shading. I'm using an overlay layer to do these quick shadings. They're very simple and they don't require you to continuously pick colors. So I'm in Photoshop at this point. Just adding in some very simple glows and volumetric effects for the scenery. Just doing some very minor color adjustments, adding in some more lighting effects here and there. And this is a very simple thing, just reflections to bring the characters into the scene. And overall, this painting's done. So, thank you so much for watching. If anyone has any questions about this video, please feel free to comment and also subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys perhaps next week. Bye.